Hey kids, how's things? Hope you guys are all doing well. I am doing just fine. Thanks for asking. I am, sometimes when I don't know what else to do, I start playing chemist and, just pull out art supplies and start mixing them together and, Anyway, so quite a while ago, I had put together a set of about 15 colors. 14 colors, because that's just graphite. Sort of trying to emulate the Graphitint pencil colors, because I know that they also make pans of these colors in, paints. So I thought, well, I have liquid graphite and I have lots of watercolors, so I'm pretty sure I could probably make something like that. So I pulled out my set of Mission, whatever, I don't know what it's called. It's Mission is the brand, I'm pretty sure. Mielo is the brand. Anyway, I call them Mission Gold watercolors. And I bought this set because it was a pretty good price for a nice large set of colors and 15 mil tubes. So because I wanted to make a bunch of granulating watercolors. And anyway, so I kind of use those as sort of my like utility watercolors. Okay. Anyway, so this is the second time I've done this. First time I just went way off on my tangent like I do. So I'm gonna try to keep it focused. But so I want to show you guys how I go about doing this and making my own Graphitint watercolors. But at the same time, I also want to talk to you about some really easy ways to sort of build your own palettes for watercolors so that you have somewhere to put those watercolors. So if you are a watercolorist and you're like all about watercolor, then you probably have lots of palettes and you know all about buying pans and half pans and just all kinds of other ways of storing watercolors, but not everybody does. So basically watercolor comes in basically two forms, in a tube that's wet and also in a pan that's dried down, and it's basically just tube watercolor, or sometimes it's extruded from the factory, but anyway, you can either get it in pans or in tubes. So when you have tubes, you need somewhere to put it, like to store it. So this is a kind of funny little solution that I came up with for these graphite colors. So this is just a pencil box, and then I had a whole bunch of these little containers, these little plastic containers that are sold, I think, as bead boxes or something, like for storing beads. And I got to looking at them and I thought, well, those would make nice little watercolor pans, And so I just basically cut them apart with a pair of scissors, and they're just hinged with a little plastic. And yeah, so I kind of made my own watercolor palette with those, and they just happen to fit perfectly in here. And yeah, so part of the reason that I wanted to use this kind of size is because I like to use larger brushes, and I really noticed how my brushes were getting damaged by kind of digging into these little tiny little pans of paint, like the little, the little half pans. You can really damage your the tips of your brushes doing that. So it's always better if you can use like a larger pan size, just to save your brushes. And also when you're making or using granulating watercolors, you want to be able to use a lot of water. And it's really nice when you've got a pan where you can, you know, spray a good deal of water into the pan and then collect that with a larger brush. So anyway, so that's part of the reason that I liked this solution, because they're larger pans. Anyway, so these are the colors that I've basically created using those Mission Gold watercolors and fluid graphite. And this is made by Kuretake. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Blick. You can get it, you know, anywhere they sell art supplies. I do want to tell you, just as a kind of a little trick, I guess, this stuff is really weird. Like, when it sits on the shelf, the heavy material that's in here, I don't know if graphite is metal or what. I kind of think it is a metal, but I don't know. I could be wrong. It's probably just a stone. Anyway, whatever it is, it has a real tendency to settle out in the container. And so you wind up with this like super heavy, thick sludge on the bottom of the bottle, and it's really hard to shake it up and to mix it up. And I mean, especially when you got to get it out of the corners of this. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that it's really helpful. See, it's already stuck. So there it is. So I put a ball bearing in there, like a pretty big one. And you can get these, you can get the set, I think it was like $7 or something on Amazon. And I'm pretty sure I used one of these bigger ones in there. Anyway, so yeah, grab some of these if you have like acrylic inks, or especially like the metallic ones where, you know, those have a tendency to really settle out too. Just grab some of these and put a couple in each one of your bottles of acrylic ink, because it really makes it a lot easier to shake them up. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Anyway, so liquid graphite and watercolor in a tube. Easy, right? You just mix them together, basically. But I wanted to just kind of talk about sort of how I go about doing it, and just my process. So the palettes, storing in something like this, or another good solution is these are actually makeup palettes that they sell on Amazon, and for like eyeshadow and stuff. And it's got magnet on the bottom. It's got a sheet of magnet on the bottom, and then you can buy these little trays separately that stick to the magnet. And honestly, it's if you're familiar with Art Toolkit, it's a manufacturer that makes little palettes for watercolors, and they use these little trays. And yeah, I mean, it's basically the same thing as Art Toolkit. And you can get all of these different size trays to go in there, and, you know, configure them however you want in your palette. So, and you can get these makeup palettes in lots of different sizes too. I just got the bigger ones because I like to have a lot of colors. But this is basically how it works out. So this is all of those Mission Gold colors just in pans. And also you get to use a larger pan, which is also better for your brushes. Not just the large square ones, but even the long rectangular ones are better for your brushes. So, and then I just put a piece of shelf liner on the top of my lid here, of the lid. I put it on the outside, and then on the inside it's just the plastic, but it's white. So I've got a mixing area there now too. So, and then I have my swatch card that I just usually set somewhere. But yeah, so it's kind of cool because you can put all different sizes and shapes of little trays in there to hold your paint. So there's that. I mean, I got a set of these for, they came in a pack of 3, and it was like, I think it was like $12 or $13, something like that. So anyway, so that's a nice solution for storing paints that you mix up, that you want to put into pans and dry down if you don't have a bunch of watercolor palettes. One last thing I just want to show you really quick. This is another thing, and I've seen other people use seashells for palette cups, and I just thought they looked really cute. And so when I was making up a bunch of different granulating watercolor colors, I used the little shells. And this is a watercolor palette, but I put my colors in these little shells. And then if you take a kneaded eraser, especially one that you've used a lot, and maybe it's gotten pretty grungy, even though it doesn't really matter, you can use them forever. Just take a little ball of a kneaded eraser or some blue tack or something. And anyway, you just smush it on the bottom of your shell, and then stick it on there. And I mean, that's how all of these are held in, just with the kneaded eraser. So yeah, just saying, easy little. And I mean, I bought like a pound of shells on Amazon for like $5 or $6. So, and I just kind of sorted them out by size. So, I mean, there were some broken ones in there, but I mean, look at how many I got. And I think they're cute, you know. Anyway, so that's that rabbit hole. So, making the watercolor. So here's the palette of colors for Graphitint. And my palette is pretty light. Like I just went very lightly with the pencil and then just activated it, because I just like to know, like, kind of like what's the base color, you know. And there is actually a pretty good range of color. When I mixed these, I wasn't really looking at this palette, but I know that there are some gaps. Like, I don't really have this ivy green or a meadow green. I don't have an aubergine. I don't really have juniper or steel blue. I guess you can't really see through this plastic, but so yeah, I mean, I think I kind of have like the russet and the chestnut sort of color covered. I'd like to have a better gray. This isn't paint. This is just graphite in there. But yeah, so there's some more colors that I'd like to make and add to this palette that are a little bit more in line with what the Graphitint range is. I mean, I'm not trying to match it perfectly or exact, but I think this is a pretty good range of colors, and I can see where I'm sort of lacking. And anyway, so I'd like to try to remedy that. So I pulled out some tubes of watercolor, and I also pulled out some gouache because I don't really use my gouache that much, and it's really just watercolor. I mean, honestly. And I noticed that I did have the gray of gray. These are all Holbein gouaches, and there's some Holbein watercolor here too. But so I want to try to make a gray and add some graphite to it. So yeah, I just pulled out a bunch of different colors. There's an orange that would maybe get me close to that chestnut color. And then I've got this is an M. Graham color, a permanent green pale, to maybe get me that meadow type of green. And I could mix something else with it, maybe to get me to that ivy color. Anyway, so that's just what I'm doing basically. Just pulled out watercolors. So yeah, I mean, somebody's gonna ask like what these are. So these are the Holbein watercolors. This was a set that I bought off of Amazon Japan, and it was a pretty good deal. So if you're looking for Holbein watercolors, check out Amazon Japan, because they have pretty good prices on Holbein, because that's where they're made. So anyway, and I happen to live in Washington State, which is where M. Graham watercolors are made. So we can get M. Graham pretty reasonable here. And it's really good watercolor. So anyway, so I've got some M. Graham colors, and then these are Turner that I bought off of Jerry's Artorama. So these are such a good price, you guys, like such a good deal. If you're looking for, you know, a good quality, artist quality, tubed watercolor, definitely check out the Turner. And this is also made in Japan, I think. Yeah, this is also made in Japan. So anyway, so they make good stuff in Japan, apparently. Yeah, and so is the graphite. Okay, so I'm just gonna try to let's work on that meadow color. So I'm gonna try with this green. So I'm just gonna take a little, these are made out of silicone. They're actually soy sauce cups. And I don't want to make a ton, like, I don't want to use up all my watercolor, but I would like to have at least, hold on. Whoops. Wrong palette. Hold the phone. So I'd like to have a pan this size with this green, okay? So I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit in there, maybe that much, about the size of a quarter or something. And then shake up my graphite again. Well, first I want to swatch this, so that I kind of know like where I'm going. I want to know where I've started and where I'm trying to get to. Oh, here's another little trick, in case you want to know what a little trick. Get some glass marbles, like from a florist, and put them in your watercolor water, like your rinse water. Because it's very gentle on your brushes, and it's just a great way to clean your brushes really well. It's loud, but just those pieces of glass in there, since they're so smooth, much better than, you know, jamming your brush down onto the bottom of your cup. I used to use these little silicone coasters in the bottom of my rinse water, but even those will damage your brush. So I started using the glass beads, and I just think it really makes a huge difference. Anyway, so let's just swatch this green. It's a very bright green. Okay, so now we kind of know what it looks like in the raw. And so this is the meadow green. And that's where we're sort of trying to get. I might want to go a little deeper than that. All right, so I'm just gonna take my graphite. I've shaken it up. And I shouldn't be leaving my brush sitting in there either. I'm gonna get, this is a little silicone tool. I'm just gonna dip it in there. I think I'm gonna need a little bit more. Stir it up. I try to keep it kind of over on one side so that I don't have paint all over the whole entire cup. And I mean, you could mix it in the pan too if you want to, but I think it's a little easier to just mix it in something else, because that could be messy trying to mix your color in there. I'm just gonna swatch this again. And it has deepened the color a little bit, but I don't really think we're into Graphitint territory yet. So I know that there's paint on this, but I'm not extremely worried about it coming off in here. So I'm just gonna dip. Get a little more graphite in there. Now I think we're getting somewhere. So yeah, I mean, if you know you're only trying to fill a little pan, don't just start off small. Like that little dollop of green paint that I added initially is gonna grow as you're adding graphite to it. So you can always make more, right? And just add a little bit at a time, you know, until you get it to really where you want it. Because you can always add more, but you can't take it away. Okay, now this I think is good. I could even go a little bit more, but I can see the graphite in there. I'm gonna add a little bit more because I kind of want to see it more. And this is just, I don't know, I just think doing this kind of stuff is really fun. And then I wind up with like a whole set of paints that I can play with, you know? One thing I will say is that, you know, once I get this to the color that I want it, you know, I get it how I want it, I'm going to pour it into that little pan and it's going to settle. The graphite will have a tendency to kind of settle to the bottom. So it's a good idea to kind of like let it dry for like a day and then come back in and actually stir it up a little bit, like with a toothpick. Once it starts to dry and the paint kind of thickens a little bit, then the graphite won't settle down in the pan, but it kind of will a little bit initially. Okay, yeah, this is good. See how it's just changing? That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. You see the difference? So Anyway, so that's great. And then I'm just gonna take my little piece of a kneaded eraser, stick it on the bottom of that pan, and then stick it on here so that so that it won't be like moving around while I'm trying to get this paint in there. It's just a nice way to hold it still, you know. And then I'm just using, I need to get some bigger ones of these. I'm just using my little silicone tool to scoop it in there. And then since it's basically glued onto that lid, I can even, you know, scrape my tool off on there. So, but you can see the graphite in there. It's so cool. So interesting. I think graphite is just fascinating. I love that it in its like raw state or whatever, it's like kind of shiny and you can actually like buff it, which is cool. God, I'm just a mess. Matter of fact, look at this thing. So I got this. I'm not going to pull it all the way out because it's kind of weird. I'm just saying. But this is just a stick of water-soluble graphite. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, just take a damp brush. Do your thing. You can also write with it. It's great for mixed media stuff. Like, so cool. And it's nice and dark. It's a nice, deep, dark graphite. So, anyway, this is made by Art Graf. And you can get these on Amazon. I mean, this thing is huge. This is enough graphite to last me like 4 lifetimes. So, handmade water-soluble graphite stick. Anyway, so there's my green. And I'm just going to take this little thing upside down like this. Put my kneaded eraser on there. And I'm just going to take the ones that I make and set them somewhere safe. Somewhere where the cats can't get them. A lot of times what I do is I put, when I need things like that to dry, but I don't want cat hair in it and I don't want dust in it, I put it in one of my craft drawers, like one of my plastic craft drawers, because they're not airtight. And yeah, and it keeps them from, you know, I can leave the lid off and it's a good place to dry things. So if you have cats, you know how nosy they are in the middle of the night. I can't leave my jar of rubber bands unattended. I have to keep it in a closed drawer. Otherwise, my cat Journey will have rubber bands all over the house. Anyway, expect to get messy. But these little silicone cups actually clean up pretty well. I usually have like a little stack of them so that I don't have to do this, but they clean up really good with, you know, soap and water. I've gotten most of the green out of there. Anyway, so I'm just going to move on to more colors and, you know, try to create something close to this, you know. I want to do that purple. Let's do the purple together. See if we can get a nice purple. I think I might use this cobalt violet light. And part of the reason that I'm using these is because I have a lot of duplicates of these colors. So anyway, I'm going to use a different cup because I'm afraid I have green in there still. Extrude. And let's swatch it. It's a relatively light kind of purple, right? I think I can get something close to this storm or maybe the aubergine. Okay, so let's add some graphite. It's already starting to settle out on the bottom. It's such a weird like thing. Anyway. Well, let's see if that's enough. It might not take very much because this is such a light purple. That purple color is actually, I keep calling it purple, but really it's a violet. I believe this color you can use in granulation mixes. Maybe not, it's a cobalt, I don't know. I guess some cobalts will granulate. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, well that's changed quite a bit, hasn't it? Okay, let's swatch it. See how she looks. Oh yeah. I'm gonna say this is about right. Yep, I'm happy with it, and it is like granulating. That's almost dead on for that storm color. That's pretty cool. Okay, well that was easy. So that's really it. I mean, I'm just gonna carry on making more colors and playing chemist. Get my little piece of kneaded eraser. Actually, I'm gonna use this little lid. Stick it on there. And scoop it in there. So anyway, if you think that you might make some of your own Graphitint colors, let me know in the comments. And if you do it, come back and tell me what kind of results you got. You know, obviously, you know, a lot of people already have the paints and the watercolor, you know, the paints that they make. But if you want different colors, like that's kind of what I did with that other set. I wasn't really trying to match the Graphitint colors. I was just trying to make my own Graphitint colors, you know, graphite colors. But now I'm kind of thinking it would be nice to have a fuller range of colors. So that's why I've come back to, you know, this palette from the actual Graphitint range so that I can kind of see what they did, you know. Anyway, so there we go. And like I said, I'll come back and see, I can even tap it to get it to settle out. And I'll come back and give these a stir. I'm going to put these actually inside here. I'm going to come back and give these a stir in the morning. just in the pan, you know, with a toothpick. And yeah, so I'm pretty happy with those. Got a bunch more to do. And yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think, or, you know, what your thoughts are, that kind of thing. I will put links in the description to as much as I can think of that I can find links to. I'm pretty sure you guys can find Jerry's Artorama if you want to go, you know, look for the Turner watercolors. Same with the Holbein. You'll have to search on Amazon Japan. But yeah, anything that basically came from Amazon, I'll leave links downstairs. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I love you. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.